Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Barrington Robinson and friends, seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view our extensive programming, please go to RBR IMO. I'd like to welcome our viewers from around the world. I especially want to welcome my very talented co-host, Miss Jackie Williams.
Good afternoon.
Mrs. Denise Smith Allen.
Hi, Ron.
And Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron. Ron, I just want to congratulate Denise on the promotion her son has gotten and her daughter-in-law.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Just
We'd like
a
to
short
hear that.
conversation we had.
All right.
Okay.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. I want to say to Mrs. Denise Smith Allen, Mrs. Jackie Williams, and Mr. Henry Hatter, you three are some of the most intelligent and talented people and are the catalysts that make the In My Opinion show work.
Thank you.
I want to thank all three of you.
Well, thank you.
But I
Appreciate
defer to the women. Yeah. Thank you. They raised the IQ of the...
Absolutely. And remember, ladies, March is Women's History Month. Selma, Lord Selma. On March 7th, 1965, in Selma, Alabama, hundreds of peaceful civil rights marchers were viciously attacked by Alabama State Police and local police as they marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on their journey towards Montgomery, Alabama, to protest the unfair treatment of voting rights and freedom from the racist treatment in America by whites and law enforcement. They were met on the Alabama Bridge by Alabama State Police and local police with nightsticks that busted the heads open to many marchers. Vicious police dogs tore open gaping holes in the flesh of men, women, and children, and especially the elderly that could not run. Horses trampled the marchers' bodies that had been beaten to the ground and lay bleeding in pools of blood. Several of the marchers drowned, it was told, as they jumped into the frigid, swift-running river 6 stories below the bridge. Thus, the horrible saga became known as Bloody Sunday. As these pictures were viewed live by millions on television around the world, please show that clip.
600 people gathered at Brown Chapel AME Church on Sunday, March 7th, to begin the march to Montgomery. Dr. King was preaching in Atlanta. Hosea Williams and John Lewis led the march. Lewis chose to march even though his organization, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, opposed SCLC's strategy and decided not to take part. Surprisingly, as they walked through the center of town, there were no police in sight. The route out of Selma crossed over the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
It'll be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You have to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
Shocked the consciousness of America's soul. This riveting history of American history. It helped in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. But really, what has changed? We are still engulfed in racism almost as brutal as experienced in the early days of the Civil Rights era. I know we don't have the hangings, KKK, although they still exist. But we have the subtle kind, the institutional, the systemic racism is just as brutal and frustrating. Denise, what's your opinion?
Well, you're asking me for an opinion now. I'm not really clear on what you mean, because are you speaking in reference to the anniversary of Selma and what happened on the bridge, or are you speaking about today's racism that exists?
Well, let's fast forward to today. All right. Let me give you a little example. My experience as a little boy, starting in kindergarten. My first day, I was called the N-word. I didn't even know what that meant. I was born and raised up north, all right, in an all-white environment, or in the country, okay? This little white kid called me the N-word. I didn't know what it meant. And he called me that several times all day. And I went home, all right, and told my parents, all right? And the next day, my parents, we went up to that school, okay? And had a conversation with the teacher and the principal, all right? The next day, he didn't call me that anymore, because we found out that the teacher and the principal had a conversation with that child's parents, okay? And racism it's a learned behavior, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the point I'm trying to make, racism, like you said, it's a learned behavior. This starts at the home, all right? And when you encounter racism, it doesn't just automatically start, all right? Because you're an adult. It started in the home. So I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And from that perspective, as you say, because it's a learned behavior, and who typically do children learn from? Usually it's in the household, the things that they hear, the things that they see. So if a child has been exposed to hearing some disparaging words made about another group of people, then they believe that that's probably the way it should be, because that has been their experience, and the parents or whoever is in the household, because it's not necessarily always a mother and father. It could be grandparents, it could be extended family members, it could be siblings. But the bottom line is, racist attitude is just as American as apple pie. I think this whole country has been built on, racial superiority or white supremacy. And, certainly the whole experience of blacks enslaved and all of that, what they did with Native Americans, or what they did with the internment camps with Asian Americans. I mean, it goes on and on, because there has been a history that has been institutionalized. When we talk about institutional racism, we're talking about every entity that has been put in place supports that whole notion of this superiority. So how do we deal with that? First of all, we have to confront it. It's no longer the elephant in the room. It is a reality. So now it's all about re-educating, because everyone, has been miseducated because of those names that have been called to various groups, that has messed with the psyche of some individuals, and has messed with their self-esteem and feeling of value and all of that. So we have to help encourage and lift people up who have had those kinds of feelings. But in the same token, we also need to educate those who believe, based on the color of their skin, that they are somehow superior, because it has nothing to do with it. When they cut, they bleed. When we cut, we bleed. The blood is red, okay? So we need to understand that there is humanity And I think for the most part, people who have experienced degradation and the racial epithets and all of that, we get it, okay? We understand, but then there is certainly elements in all racial groups that have probably some angry feelings, and they put out, certain things that may not be of benefit. But for the majority society, I think, again, it's all about educating, and I think the young people coming today, a lot of them get it, they do understand, they have friends in all ethnic groups, but then again, if they're at home, if they're living in rural areas, and, again, it depends on their backgrounds, how they perceive of people who are not like them, okay? So, I mean, I could talk on and on about this whole thing because I think it's very interesting. And I know for myself, I listened to your story about where you grew up. See, and I grew up in New York City, and there are all racial groups there. But there are pockets of communities where it's segregated. It is segregated, but we went to schools where there was, my primary education in elementary school was African American, okay? But from then, went into a school where it was considered de facto segregation. We were the second group of kids that were bused into an area that was predominantly Polish Americans, and they were set not having us come there. So we had to deal with some of that discrimination and, all of that. But the point still being that whole neighborhood now, if I were to go back there now, there's changes. Changes have occurred. And change is slow, but change is coming, and change is going to be, because it's just the way it is. So I'll stop right there.
Jackie, what is your experience?
Well, I guess as a child, I too went to elementary school that was predominantly black. But when I went to middle school and high school, it was, I guess it was 20% black and 80% white. And one of the things that I learned is I became well-rounded because I learned to get along because we were not taught in my house. Everybody came to my house, so we didn't have where my mom would say we get along with everybody, but you never seen them at your house. I had people at my house, so it was no big deal. I didn't see that, so I wasn't taught that there was a difference, so I felt like we were all the same. But and I took a group of kids to see Selma. And watching Selma, I think I took a different view of some things that I think that Martin Luther King captured. Because in the march, when he went across the bridge the first time, and this was really deep when I was sitting with some college students by me, and when he went across the bridge the first time, it was all blacks. And when he called for everybody to come and help, it was all different groups, and that's when they succeeded. So that's to me, that's saying, it goes right along with the speech that he have, I have a dream, because when you went as one group, you didn't make it, but when you went together, you made it. So we need to get past, we do look different, and it's okay to be different. And our young people are teaching us it's okay to be different, because I've never seen so many interracial marriages. I mean, they don't care. These young people don't care. They don't see it like, but it's being taught from the older. The older people are still holding on. Don't do that. The young people don't care. They'll date whoever they want to date, and which is fine, because as long as you're happy, I'm happy. But I thought that was really good. But we have to, I like what you said about lift the people. We have to show value in everybody. And that's why I like when they did the marches in Ferguson and all that. Because it wasn't just black people marching for rights. It was all different groups saying that, they value everybody. So everybody is speaking out that we're tired of these divisional lines, that divides us, and we want to come together. And it's a good teachable moment for all of us, because at the Oscars, we didn't win any awards, but when, don't give me, John Legend and Common got up to do the award, everybody was crying, because the words of the song that they wrote were so deep. It made you think, even if you never thought about it before, even if you didn't see the picture. the words made you think about the struggle, because if you forget about the struggle, you forget about what we've been through and what we're still going through. We still got some ways to go. We've got over a little bit, but we still have not arrived across the bridge.
There you go.
Henry, what has been your experience?
Hi, Ron. I noticed that there's a common theme here, but all of the experiences are different. Yours, Denise's, and yours. Thank you. And that's good. And mine are slightly different, but the same. I have never gone to any one school that was predominantly one or the other. When I went to Clark School over here in Flint, in elementary, I'd say it was about half black and half white. Maybe 2/3 white, I don't know. But when we were called to names, we had reactions for that. We pulled our thoughts and decided to create our own sphere of dominance. And there was a time that we just had a day to criticize the white man. I criticized the white man day. I'm sorry. But it was not intended to be vulgar or violent. But it's just a reaction to racism. And I want to thank you, Ron, for having taken and responded the way you did. And I would, if I were in the same situation, in the same circumstances, I probably would react like you. But I want to thank all of the men and women who were there to cross that bridge in Selma, because they made all of our lives different. A lot of them, I don't know a lot of them, but many of them lost their lives, I believe. Mm-hmm. Jumping into the river and by beaten by dogs and run over by cars or whatever and trampled. And however, it's almost unbelievable to think that that would go on in the home of the brave and the land of the free, isn't it? I hate routine conversations like that, but it does say something when you really think about that. Should have never happened in the United States. And we can thank people who came back from the Second World War who helped to make changes, like the veterans and stuff, who came back never to put up with that again. Many of them, as you know, even the Tuskegee Airmen, they were those who were free when they bombed the Germans who looked like our people and here in America, and felt relieved and vindicated. But I think that we got to get beyond this racism. We're moving into 2050 when we have a paradigm shift. We're going to automatically occupy the seats of equality eventually. Whether we do it by choice or whether it just occurs just automatically. But we will occupy that. We should be preparing our kids to learn to function in those areas because it's coming.
I think the thing that you're speaking about, though, we're talking about right now is a numeric shift. Right now, the country, prior to 2050, has all, because that's coming, where we will have a shift in the numbers. But before that, we were dealing with this dominance based on numerics, okay? And then again, it was about perpetuating those things that were comfortable, because if you look at the fact that with our country being built on the backs of slaves, there were monetary benefits for the color scheme, if you will, okay? And so, it was easy. They couldn't deal with the indentured slave because they were coming from Europe, and when they came, they could not handle the elements. They couldn't handle being out in the field and that kind of thing, whereas they brought our folks who were agriculturally inclined because of the weather and all of those other things. And so it was easier for them to work with our people as a group in order to deal with this this control issue.
See, I don't see the work issue is something that's devastating to the black man.
It's not. It's not. But when it's free, it
Well,
is.
I just don't see. I think he learned many skills. Many skills.
We learned skills.
Multiple skills.
We had multiple skills. There's no question about it. We brought skills with us, and we learned some additional skills. There's no question about it. But it was free. And because of that free skilled labor pool, this America was built up financially.
Yes.
And as an organization or a country that is built on capitalism, we built it. We helped create it, and then we were denied access. And so that's the position where you have a lot of people who are angry and frustrated because we haven't been included.
Right.
So now it's up to us. You know, we were educated.
To join ourselves together, to pool our money, and to build something.
And to do that.
Yes.
Okay? And one of the things that happened originally, right after this so-called freedom that occurred was, okay, we let you go, now figure it out.
Yeah.
We have no resources and we have no education. So we had to figure that out. And I think we did a tremendous job.
Yes, we did.
I think we did a tremendous job. But we also got help.
Yes. We got lots of help.
University, named after a general.
Tuskegee.
Okay, and we can go on.
Tuskegee.
We can go on. We had to get help.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it by ourselves. And I think that that's the whole thing in a nutshell. As you said, Jackie, looking at that bridge, the first time out the gate, oh, it's just them. But then when they saw, oh, it's them and us, we better figure this one out.
Yeah.
You know, and also too, until we get a number of those, if you call them prehistoric thinking congressmen out of Congress, all right, and get some progressive thinking, younger folks in Congress, all right, that want to see the nation progress, all right, knowing that they're doing everything they possibly can to keep the power, all right, you know, with the voting rights. Why does it always have to? Why do we always have to renew?
It's like renewing your driver's license.
Renew the act. How come it can't? Why is it that it can't be a law? All right. Why does it always have to be why do we always have to renew?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Reauthorize.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why? You know. Other groups don't have to. Their rights doesn't have to be renewed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that goes back to this whole notion of how we got here. When they instituted the Constitution, they included us in there, but they called us 3/5.
Exactly.
Okay? They didn't do that with
Exactly.
the Asian man
Exactly.
or any other person that came in, but it was specifically designed because, again, we were a free labor pool. And we were brought here with the understanding that we were not going to live here more than about 7 years. They're going to work us to death, and that was going to be it. And then get a new batch, work them to death, and we were not included in that scheme.
And that was their plan.
And that was the plan.
See,
That
and
was the plan.
we built this country.
Absolutely.
All right, but now they don't want to give us anything. Whatever they thought they gave us, they're trying to dismantle it. All right, and no, that can't happen.
Well, it's
we
not
can't.
going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going
all
to
right?
happen because people are going to rise up, and as you see
And
now,
we're
these young
beginning,
people
and we're
are
doing it,
Mhm.
and we're doing
They're
it.
getting
All right.
it. They're getting it.
You know, when I was a young kid, all right, oh yeah, I got called the N-word, but when I got a little older, okay, I got to kicking some ass. You know what I mean? And it stopped. All right, okay. You talking about after school? Nobody. All right, it stopped. But well, that was a different time.
It was a different time.
And
but
you
here's-
said you had some lessons that you and the boys.
Yeah, they had
too.
these days. You know how kids are.
You know what I mean?
Something will always rise when there's a vacuum.
But here's
Exactly.
my
There was a
thinking.
vacuum.
There's a vacuum, but my question is, okay, because again, we're dealing with this issue of race. But then if we took race out of the equation and just had European Americans here, you have to look at all of the dynamics. You've got people from Europe, you got them from Wales, you got them from all these different countries. Czechoslovakians. I mean, you have all of these. And so if you took us out of the equation, there would still be fighting amongst those groups.
Yeah,
Because
it's a human nature.
Because there's some kind of dominance.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Brits
Yeah.
may think they're better than.
Yeah.
It's
you know,
always going to be a
and so there's this dominance piece.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to be real clear about that.
Yes,
But
we have to.
because of the obvious, the shell, because of the obvious, we're the ones that seem to get the brunt. And we have to be aware of that, because when we talk about America being a melting pot, or it, you know, being colorblind, that's a lie.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
it's a lie. So we need to stop saying that. Because if I'm looking at you and I can see, my vision is not 20/20, but I can see you with my glasses on, first thing I see is what you look like.
But you understand history, all of this division was created during the Ottoman Empire, all right?
So who?
The Ottoman Empire. When they
Turks.
came in and divided the continent of Africa.
Okay.
All right? The Belgians got the vast majority of the smallest country, but they got the majority of Africa.
Right.
All right? And that's when all this foolishness began.
But
All
there's
right? Pitting one nation, one country against the other. All right, one color against another, one tribe against another, you know, and it's still going on.
But Ron, there were some other dynamics there at work too. One of the things that worked against the dominance of European Americans was that they were having relationships with Negro slaves.
Of course.
And they were changing the color of the landscape.
Then
Then their kids fell in love with some of these ladies and had more kids.
Then came the light against the dark, and this and that.
High yellows.
We'll find a way.
Oh yeah, we will find a way to
We will find a way.
We will find a way.
Yeah, we will find a way.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Folks, go see the movie Selma. Please take your children, your grandparents, your friends, your neighbors. Okay, go see Selma. It's a wonderful movie. All right. I want to thank our very talented technical crew and my very talented co-host. Remember, March is Women's Month. This is Ronald Barrington Robinson, friends, saying until next time, stay focused.